Hi, welcome back. So in this section, we are going to look about filtering and sorting. So if you drill down, if you remember, the last time where we left off was like at this point where we looked at the data by category, by subcategory, and then by state. So what I'm trying to find out here is in 2014, do we have any states where we were not able to do business? So if you look at the data, it is kind of scattered across. So Arizona, for example, had some sale in 2014, but it was only one sale, and Arkansas did not have any. The last time we had a sale was in 2011 quarter 3. So this kind of the idea I'm trying to get out here is to see the data which is in 2012, which states I'm doing business in which years. So for that is where I'm going to use filtering. So for that, let me go back to my geographical values. So I'm going to use state. The moment I click it, I get it. So I'm going to get field map with the state, and then I'm going to add my total sale. So the moment I add my total sale in here, I'm going to kind of get a kind of a high level overview. Then I'm going to add it to the detail, and then is where it comes going to come interesting. So now I'm going to add my order date into the filters. So the moment you add order date into the filter, it gives you different options, whether you want years, quarters, or months or something like that. So for this example, I'm going to say range of I'm going to say years, because as I said, my intention was to basically look at how it was spread across years. So I'm going to have years and then click range, and I'm going to say okay, select all for now, and then click apply and say okay. So now if you look at it, right now we have selected all the years. If you click on the drop down, you can edit filter, or you can say show filter. This show filter is basically where you expose all the values that you have to your users. So right now, let's say I don't want everything, I want only 2014. So in 2014, just by looking at this, we can look at the data and tell, hey, Wyoming is one place where we didn't really have any data because we didn't really make any calculations. So let's now edit my filter, and rather than pulling it up just by the years, I would like to have a condition where I would say, rather than pulling it up by I would like to say I don't want this one. Rather than that, I would go to condition, and I would say I have something like if my total count, so I have row id, so if my total, I can do count, if my total count in a state is more greater than or equal to, let's say, 20. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to calculate if I have at least 20 orders from one given state, and I'm going to click apply, and then I'm going to say okay. So again, if you see, the years are is going to be all, so I don't want all the years. So in for 20, I'm going to say okay, I don't want any. So in 2014, if I have more than 20 orders, the count of row id is greater than 20, then I can have it here. So this kind of is what we are talking about filtering, and you can basically use the filter to do a list of other values, which I will be showing in later. So now let's go back and go to another sheet, and let's understand filters even more deeply. So let's drag sales onto my one, which is 2.2, and let's say subcategory. Okay, so now I have sales and I have subcategory, but and also let me put in my profit in here. So if you see this, okay, let's go back to where we left off, where I had sale and profit, and let me remove my profit out of here. The reason why you're seeing this is because you have something called measure names in your columns, which is basically when we are displaying multiple measures, because each subcategory or each dimension will have one record. So it is basically what it is trying to do is, for that one single measure, it is basically trying to For that one single dimension, it's basically trying to give you the details of the measures. So let's remove the measure names. And so this is a bug in Tableau 9.3, which Tableau is currently working on, is when you add multiple measures and remove the measures, the data is kind of screwed up. So let's remove even the subcategory, and let's even remove this one. So let's go there, and the only thing that you can do is you have to delete the sheet and recreate one. So I just wanted you to kind of have an idea about that, because that happens, and when that happens in production or when you are at the client place, you really don't have a lot of stuff to do. So this is where I was talking about filtering, was you could have filters based on dates. That's what we saw earlier. And now let's say we want to have filters based on category, right? So you can just drag filter and say on category you wanted all or full. For now I would say all. You can say apply and say okay, and then let's say you have it by state or something. So right now if you look at it, so this is by state, you're getting the total categories, or you're getting your total sales. So if I right click and say show filter, now I can say just by clicking off at only office supplies, I can see my office supplies across states, or I can see office supplies and technology. And so the other options that I can are, let me pull out states and let's add something else. So if you can, even your totals, if you look at it, are going to change, because my technology was $800,000 or something like that. And now let's say we add something called segments. We add, let's see what are the unique values of segments. So we can basically do it by segment and by maybe subcategory or something. So if you look at it in technology, we can say that, you know, the consumer, corporate, and home office, these are the three different segments that we have. But when you select all, we have these three segments across multiple values. So now if you click on show me and kind of see the data, so for each value you're having multiple values, and now with the data exposed, you can basically play and see the data in a totally different perspective by just clicking across. And you can also, this is a checkbox where you can give users access to check more than one, and, you know, have data kind of aggregated. But if you can see the small drop down there, click on it and say multiple values, because we are giving them multiple values. If you say single, then you can only select one of them or all of them. So like in this case, you cannot select office supplies and technology. So let's quickly drop down. So a single value drop down is where you have it as a drop down rather than a radio button. And the other options that we have, slider, is where you have where you can move it across. This is very useful when you have years especially. So let's pull in a year here. I would say I want the let's say all quarters or something, and I would say all for now and say okay. And now I can even expose this as a show filter. So rather than this, I would like to, you know, have single value slider. So right now you can see, okay, it's either qual, okay, I want Q2, I want Q3 or Q4 or something like that. You can basically use this to move across the values. So the other one is very similar to that, where you can have multiple values. So in multiple values, you can give them options of adding or deleting stuff. So you can say multiple values, you can ask them to supply office, supply something like that, and it will basically pull out those, because we don't have nothing called office. So you can basically add and remove values, and this is custom list. Wild character is where you can say percentile of percentile. This is where we can basically use the data where you can say percentile of percentile, something like that, and it will basically pull up everything that we had for the percentiles for quarter 2, or we can say, let's double check what happened. So because it was able to pull up office category, because it had that off, so we don't need the percentiles. So this is so this is how filtering works. You know, as I said, it has lot of values, and the other one you can do is include or exclude values. So you can ask by default it includes values that you selected in the filter, but you can say exclude and give me everything else. So for example, let's say you want to have a state or something by your filter. You can have multiple of these. So let's say I want Georgia, Idaho, and Marine, and something like that, and I just click apply. And so right now I have the state. So let's say I show the filter for state. I can say, rather than having them as a big drop down list, I can say them multiple values drop down, so that way they can select what all they want, and I have space as well. And or you can say include all the values, or let's say exclude. So in this case, if you see, there is a strike line to let you know that everything that is in there is excluded. So you can add as many filters as possible. And the other good thing is with filter is you can say apply to worksheets, and you can say what are all the worksheets. For example, we have a bunch of them already, so we can say, okay, apply this to sheet 2, sheet 4. And so when you click OK, this filter is going to be applied. And if you see here, the small icon that you see here, it tells you that this filter has been applied across. So let's go back to sheet 2 and see what happened. If you see, okay, this is a state filter which we have applied. So this is very important, especially when doing dashboarding, because you apply a filter at one place and then you can reuse it across multiple places. So now let's quickly talk about sorting data in Tableau. Sorting data in Tableau is pretty powerful. Like for example, looking at this data, it does not really tell you a lot of things. So let's say I have some sales, has some profit category as well in this. If you see that you have two categories, one is for profit and one is for sale. And let's put in the profit into the color. So if you see, we are doing negative in what is that, in I think supplies, in corporate, in whatever filter condition that we had. So that's the reason it is showing you all of these bar graphs next to each other. But I would like to sort the data. So the moment you click, there are three different ways of sorting data. So let me remove the sales for now, and let's just have this one here. So if you click on this sorting category, it basically can sort the data for you in ascending or descending order. So in this case, the default order was descending, and you can do again click it to do it in the ascending order. So if you see the order, it will basically tell you which column it's sorted on, because that's what is sorted right here. So you can see that highlighted value here. The other way you can do sorting is you can go here and click on this. But if you click on that, it will tell you sort subcategory ascending profit. So it is going to sort based on subcategory and then by profit. So for example, if you click that, this is what is going to happen. So it will basically tell you what it is doing, and here it is going to tell you sort subcategory descending profit. So it's basically the other way of doing the same stuff that we did. So this is one way we can do sorting in Tableau. So the big thing here to remember is this sort is retained, in the sense that as new data comes in, this sort automatically gets updated. So for example, if you're having a relational database or something like that, and the data is getting updated every day, the sort order automatically changes in the way you want it to. But you can still override the sort order by clicking art, for example, and I want art to be my second one. So you can basically drag it and put it in the same order you want. But the problem with manual sort order is it is not stored, or it is not in the same order as you want it every time the new data comes in. So once you are done with your analysis, the data sorting is gone. So you need to make sure that you have it in the sort category. The other option we have it here is click on the drop down on your dimension that you would like to sort on, and then say clear sort. For example, I'm saying clear sort in this case. In this case, if I do clear sort, it basically uses my subcategory as my sort condition. That's the reason why you see it in this order. So let me click that and say sort, and here if you see, you get a bunch of orders. So you can either, in this case, you can do it based on subcategory, ascending or descending on the data source order, which means your subcategory is your data source order, or you can do it alphabetically, or you can do it based on the profit you can do a sum of profit or average of profit or whatever. There are a bunch of values that you can use here. Median and percentile. Percentile is what we talked about earlier, so you can basically use different values. The other one is manual. If you want to store the order in manual format, this is where you do it. You can, once you do it here, it is stored there forever. So you can basically have the order and click apply, and that will be the order it will be storing. So for example, let's move envelopes up, and so as we get more and more data, this order is exactly the same. But this kind of becomes a bit challenging, because as more orders or more subcategories come in, your order is going to be changing, and you need to make sure that users know about it. But it is very useful. This kind of manual order is very useful when people or business users are looking at certain subcategories. For example, envelopes might be something that the business is really looking at very closely, so they might be want it as number one and number two every year or in every report. So this is where you can do the sorting. So we talked about sorting and filtering in this. So filtering, as I said, you can add more and more filters into the filters pan there, and you can expose them as quick filters and give the option to the user. And also we talked about how we can share the filters across multiple sheets. Then we quickly talked about sorting, how we can do manual sort, how we can do short sorting on the sheets, and then how we can do manual sort, and also how we can add sorts by clicking the small triangle on the dimensions we would like to. So that concludes the filtering and sorting. So let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.